Welcome everyone to our gospel series, and today I'm not going to be able to be live with you, but I did record this so that we could premiere it today anyway, so that you guys could still have this Bible study for your family Bible study. I'll be watching it with my family, but I appreciate you guys joining me, and if you've been here thus far, you've seen an amazing story all the way from the beginning of Matthew now to chapter 23. And I was supposed to do 23 and 24 today as a part of the study to get it done in a certain amount of time, but I've decided to divide Matthew 23 and Matthew 24 just because there's so much in each one of them. This is a big portion of the Bible that talks about very interesting things. And what we're getting ready to talk about, some people would like removed from the Bible, struck from the record, but we're going to talk about it. And this is, what's been going on so far, just for those of you who maybe this is your first time catching this Bible study. What we have going on is Jesus starts out his ministry. He goes to the mountain, he fasts, he goes to the top of the mountain. Satan tempts him, offers him all the kingdoms of the world if he'd bow down and worship. He denies. Then he goes and he gets baptized by John the Baptist. The Holy Spirit comes down on him in the form of a dove. He is, you can hear the voice of God saying, "This is my son in whom I'm well pleased." He goes around, he starts healing people. He starts casting out demons. Tens of thousands, if not hundreds of thousands people are now following him around. He's catching the attention of everybody. The Pharisees are starting to get irritated with him. He goes into the temple, he flips the tables, he causes a ruckus there, and they would have seized him in those moments had they not feared the crowd, but the crowd was so big that they didn't dare take him in those moments. And now in Matthew 23, he's addressing them specifically in relation to a prophetic thing that was going to take place shortly thereafter. So this is very interesting. We're going to get into it, and we're going to talk a little bit about it. I have here the BibleHub.com pulled up that we're going to be reading it through, and I like BibleHub. Where you got, some of you guys know this, but you can also look up the words in the Greek in this instance, since it's written in Greek. You can look up the words, delve into it a little bit further, see what was said if you did something you didn't understand. So we're going to be reading through that. So we're going to get started. In verse 1 it says, "Then spake Jesus to the multitude and to his disciples, saying, The scribes and the Pharisees sit in Moses' seat. And therefore whatsoever they bid you observe, that observe and do, but do not ye after their works. For they say and do not. For they bind heavy burdens and grievous to be borne, and lay them on men's shoulders, but they themselves will not move them with one of their fingers. But all their work they do for to be seen of men. They make broad their phylacteries, and enlarge their borders of their garments, and love to the uppermost rooms at the feast, and the chief seats in the synagogues, and the greetings in the marketplace, and to be called of men, Rabbi, Rabbi." No, we'll stop right there. So basically what they're saying is they're hypocrites. These guys are hypocrites. They tell you what to do, but they don't do anything. They put all these burdens on people, but they won't lift a finger themselves. They think there's something special. They walk around, parade in their beautiful clothing, make sure people see exactly who they are. They expect all the right tables. They expect to be given all the accolades when they show up. They like to be called Rabbi, Rabbi. Then we go on here. It says, "But be not ye called Rabbi, for one is your master, even Christ, and all ye are brethren." And I do not see how people get past this verse here. There's so many people that are allowing others to call them Rabbi. They are preachers, or they're people that are portraying the word of God, but they are allowing people to be calling them Rabbi. And I did a very deep study on this because I had a friend who, I guess you could call him a friend. He was a rabbi, and he would tell me that this isn't what I think it means. Well, I searched it, and it is exactly what it says. It's very simple, that you're not supposed to be called rabbi. Rabbi was a new term at the time. It wasn't something that was around for a long time, and it was a symbol of superiority in the word. And so Jesus clarifies that. He says, "Neither be called master." But you're brethren. It says you're all brethren. And so we don't need to be calling people up higher than us as rabbi. And it says, "And call no man your father, call no man master, it says, "Be ye not called rabbi, for one is your master, even Christ, and to call no man your father." And this is the common word that they use. This word here, if you look up, let's see here, father, it is patar, and that was what they would call their judges. They called them that. That was the word that they would call them, their judges. And there's only one Father, which is in heaven. So you only have one judge in heaven, one Father. Neither be ye called master, for you only have one master, who's Christ. But he that is greatest among you shall be your servant, and whosoever shall exalt himself shall be abased, and he that shall humble himself shall be exalted. So it gives us this paradigm that we're not used to, because in this world, the people that exalt themselves the most, they have the most pride in what they do. They go around parading who they are, how important they are, how holy they are, how righteous they are. They are going to be the least. They're going to be low in the kingdom. But the people who are servants, the people who have a servant's heart, that are out there doing the will of the Father and doing the right things for the people, they're going to be exalted, which is something great to hear for most of us, because this world has a habit of exalting the wicked ones. It really, really does. And there's so many people, and I can't stress this enough. When you have a respect for a person, that's good. There's nothing wrong with having respect for other people. But when you exalt a person above you, above your ability to be close to God, and you call them, like in this instance, Father, or your judge, or your master, or your rabbi, you are exalting someone else above the godhood that you should be underneath. And there's other verses that we'll get to eventually one day that talk about this hierarchy, that God is supposed to be our covering of man. He's the covering. And so we have to remember that and really take into account, because the people that tend to seem the most holy, and Jesus calls it out right here, they dress the best, they do the best, they're great at publicly looking holy. They're so good at it that people just give them accolades. But inwardly, it talks about how they are inwardly here in a minute. Let's just keep reading here. It says, "But woe unto you, scribes and Pharisees, hypocrites, for ye shut up the kingdom of heaven against men. For ye neither go in yourself, neither suffer ye them that are entertaining to go in. Woe unto you, scribes or Pharisees, hypocrites, for you devour widows' houses, and for a pretense make a long prayer. Therefore you shall receive the greater damnation." So this is really interesting, but it talks about them shutting up the kingdom of heaven against men. For ye neither go, they don't even go in themselves, and neither suffer them that are going entertain or entering to go in. So like when I think about that, I think about this in an interesting way, but there's a lot of times that people will pretend to be holier than they are, and it will cause people to stumble, because they'll say, "Yeah, I speak in tongues every night," or "I never sin," or it's possible to not sin. I'm holy. I'm this. I'm righteous. But they themselves know that that's not the case always. They know that they're not perfect. They know that they still have issues that they're dealing with, whether it be mental, spiritual, whatever. They know that they still have them, but publicly they will declare that they have broken every chain, beaten everything, and that you should too, that you are not worthy because you haven't been able to achieve the success or whatever it is that they have. But this is a deception. This is something that we should look out for. Normally, the people that appear the holiest publicly, and I can't say normally, but in my experience from what I've found out, the people that want to appear publicly holy and do their best to do that, they have stuff going on behind the scenes. And we're starting to see that with Epstein files, and with a lot of the stuff coming out, you're going to start seeing more and more people that you might have respected as godly men start being exposed for the things that they're doing or have done. And so keep that in mind. What looks good isn't always good. And so that's why we should always keep our faith in Christ rather than men anyway. It says, "Woe unto you, scribes and Pharisees, hypocrites, for you compass sea and land to make one proselyte. And when he is made, or one proselyte, I'm sorry, and when he is made, you make him twofold, more the child of hell than yourself." And it talks about them compass the sea. They go everywhere. They go everywhere to make this happen. And there is an international group that goes everywhere. They do everything they can to make people a part of their club and to keep them stuck in those clubs forever. It still goes on. This is not anything new. And it says, Woe unto you, blind guides, which say, Whosoever shall swear by the temple, it is nothing. But whosoever shall swear by the gold of the temple, he is the debtor. Ye fools and blind, for whether is greater, the gold or the temple that sanctifieth the gold? And whosoever shall swear by the altar, it is nothing. But whosoever sweareth by the gift that it is upon it, he is guilty. Ye fools and blind, for whether is greater, the gift or the altar that sanctifieth the gift? Whoso therefore shall swear by the altar sweareth by it, and by all things thereon. And who shall swear by the temple sweareth by it, and by him that dwelleth therein. And he that shall swear by heaven sweareth by the throne of God, and by him that sitteth therein. So this is an interesting verse. This is not something common today, is people swearing over the temple or swearing over this, but apparently, if you're swearing by the gold, you're a debtor. Like when I read this, in my mind, it makes a little bit of sense, but when you're talking about this in modern day terms, it's just so different. We don't have a temple where people go into, but these guys apparently are swearing by the wrong things. They're doing the wrong things when they swear by this temple. They're supposed to I would imagine in other parts of the Bible they're not supposed to swear by it. So there's other commentary on this, and I will have to look it up, but it's an interesting little section here. It says, Woe unto you, scribes and Pharisees, hypocrites, for you pay tithe and mint and anise and cumin, and have omitted the weightier matters of the law, judgment, mercy, and faith. These ought ye have done, and not to leave the other undone. Ye blind guides which strain a gnat and swallow a camel. Can you imagine that, like straining a gnat? I'm going to put the verses back up here. My apologies. Straining a gnat and swallowing a camel. So they make a big deal out of a gnat, but they'll just swallow down the camel real quick. And this is exactly what hypocrites do. They make a big deal out of everything. Do you believe this? Do you know for sure? Do you believe in this part of the Trinity that this has to be the exact way? Do you make sure that your clothes are exactly the way they should? Or is your beard cut the way it should be? Is your hair cut the way it should be? Are you perfectly speaking your language the way you should be in public? Are you doing this or that? Things that aren't even really sin, just little small things, but they completely neglect all of the weightier matters which it mentions here, which is judgment, which is something they were supposed to be doing. They're supposed to be the judges, which is mercy, something they were not giving to other people, something that they were giving themselves. They weren't even willing to lift a finger, but they wouldn't give it to other people. And then faith, the things that actually give us hope in our life, is our faith and our ability to think forward to the things of the future and to be able to put forth a foot in faith and accomplish major things. All of those things they neglected. This sounds so much like the modern church. It sounds so much like the people who are hypocrites that just want so bad to control you that they'll make up their own sins. They'll look at things that you do and call it a sin, even though they themselves have neglected the actual weightier matters, because the weightier matters aren't as visual. They're not as visual, like judgment, mercy, and faith. You can't tell if a person has judgment, mercy, or faith by looking at them on a screen or looking at them on their profile on Facebook. You can't tell any of these things, but you can tell if they wear the right clothes, if they type out their messages the best that they type them out, if they put out the good videos. You can tell by that, and that doesn't give you any hint of who this person is. And so sometimes we got to be careful in who we judge, like how we judge people, just because we think, oh, this person, posted a picture that I don't like, and so therefore they must be bad. They must be bad, but we don't really know. We don't know that, because not all of what we think is bad is not always the case. What the Bible says is bad is the case. What sin is the transgression of the law, and we can look and see by the 10 Commandments, what is the law? What does it mean to be the law? We read in the previous chapter that all of the commandments hang on the law of the law of love. All the commandments hang on that, the law of loving God and loving others. And so all the commandments are basically based and able to hang on that and be supported by those two laws, the law of love, the law of loving God and loving others. And so they forget about all that. They worry about the other things. and they're so honed in on what other people are doing that they don't even look at what they're doing. They're just totally focused in on judging this person or judging that person. It's really kind of amazing the way they're willing to overlook their own sins and overlook their own deep-seated issues that are going to get them put in hell, to find out about you and something you might have said that they didn't like, or they might have thought it was off their doctrine or whatever. This is the kind of stuff that we have to look out for and have to realize when the gaslighting game goes on. We know who our judges up there, and his law is what we go by, not their law. And so we have to ignore those things and move forward, because they will try to hold you back. People will try to hold you back with their own laws they made up because maybe society made up a law, or they thought in church they grew up and thought there was something there, but there wasn't. So moving on from there, it says, "Woe unto you, scribes and Pharisees, hypocrites, for you make clean the outside of the cup and of the platter, but within they are full of extortion and excess. Thou blind Pharisees, cleanse first that which is within the cup and platter, that the outside of them may be clean also." I mean, this is exactly what we're saying. They don't want to clean up the inside. They don't want to clean up what's going on inside. They only want to clean up what's presented to other people, because they're not worried about pleasing God. They're worried about pleasing you. They're worried about getting you to follow them or you to hear what they have to say. They don't really care about the inside of the cup, because that's not what they're after. They're after this world. And it says, "Woe unto you, scribes and Pharisees, hypocrites, for you are like unto whited sepulchres, which indeed appear beautiful outward, but are within full of dead men's bones and of uncleanliness. Even so ye also outwardly appear righteous unto men, but within ye are full of hypocrisy and iniquity." And I don't feel like that needs any commentary. That's exactly what it says. You look great from the outside, but inside you're dead. You're sick. There's problems going on. You got nasty uncleanliness, and you're a hypocrite. And it says in verse 29, "Woe unto you, scribes and Pharisees, hypocrites, because you build the tombs of the prophets and garnish the sepulchres of the righteous, and say, if we had been in the days of our fathers, we would not have been partakers with them in the blood of the prophets. Wherefore ye be witnesses unto yourself that ye are the children of them which killed the prophets. Fill you up then the measure of your fathers, ye serpents, generation of vipers. How can ye escape the damnation of hell?" And this is a big deal. Let's go on to the next verse, because it says, "Wherefore," that means it's continuing. "Wherefore, behold, I send you unto you prophets and wise men and scribes, and some of them you shall kill and crucify, and some of them shall you scourge in your synagogues and persecute them from city to city, that upon you may come all the righteous blood shed upon the earth, and from the blood of the righteous Abel unto the blood of Zacharias, the son of Barachias, whom ye slew between the temple and the altar. Verily I say unto you, all these things shall come upon you this generation." And that's something that we have to remember. It says this is all coming on them in this generation, which it did. You will see that this all happened within a generation to them. They were taken, their power was taken. Lots of crazy stuff happened to them. But this is still going on to this day. These broods of vipers, these generations of vipers that are operating on an international level, still to this day, they take out the true men of God. And this judgment that we're going to see here, I'm going to continue to read it here in a second, but this judgment that they receive here is a judgment that comes from iniquity and comes from the desire to take away all the prophets of God. Can you imagine, what is it inside that causes you wanting to kill the prophets of God, other than pride, other than wanting to be the head honcho, or other than literally serving Satan? And that's exactly what was happening. When he calls them generation of vipers, he could have meant it. He could have meant exactly what he said. And it says, this is something interesting here, which is, most of you guys know this, but at one point I put out a video and it got scrubbed from the internet, but it was about how I believe that Jerusalem is actually considered Babylon. And the reason I believe that is because the same verse that we're getting ready to talk to, or we're getting ready to, actually it's not in this chapter, it's in Luke, but this verse, he says in other chapters that all the blood of the prophets would be on them, and that this is the place where prophets are supposed to be killed, is in Jerusalem. And this is a similar judgment pronounced in Revelation. But let's read this in verse 37. It says, O Jerusalem, Jerusalem, thou that killest the prophets and stonest them which are sent unto thee, how often would I have gathered thy children together, even as a hen gathereth her chickens under her wings, and you would not? Behold, your house is left unto you desolate. For I say unto you, ye shall not see me henceforth, till you shall say, Blessed is he that cometh in the name of the Lord. And so this is a interesting judgment. This stuff is coming upon this generation, it says, and we're going to go on to Matthew 24 because we're not going to do it this time, but Matthew 24 is a continuation of what is being said here, and he goes on to talk to his disciples about this, and we're going to try to look at this with the open eyes and decode it. I'm not going to go through all the prophetic implications that it might have, because that's really not what I'm trying to do with this Bible study, but we want to look at this stuff and take it for what it says at face value and go through it like that, and so we're going to try to do that with Matthew 24 next week. One more thing I forgot to tell you, in the description, there is a link so that you can download the PDF for this broadcast, and it has like word search and word of the day and a little bit of breakdown of Matthew 23 and 24. So save it for next week too, because we'll use the same one for next week. But guys, thank you so much for watching this. If you like this, hit the subscribe button, hit the like button, comment. Let me know what you guys think. Let me know any insights that you guys might have. I really enjoy that. And thank you guys so much. I will see you next time.